I want to introduce the folks on the podium with me, starting at the far end in the military uniform, sir. Rich Gordon, our Executive Director for Career Technology, Education. Mary Runyon, Associate Superintendent for Learning Services. Reggie McNeil, our Executive Director for Capital Programs. Kim Wilson, our Executive Director, or Associate Superintendent for High Schools, Higher Learning. Principals, Henry Darby, North Charleston High School, and Jeremy Carrick from Stall. Unfortunately, Charity Summers couldn't be with us today, but she's here in spirit. Our superintendent's here somewhere, Dr. Postaway. Thank you for being here. And I also want to recognize General Bob King. Thank you, sir, for being here. And Mr. Gordon Garrett III. I appreciate you being here too, sir. All right, so we're going to talk to you today about a couple of exciting things happening in North Charleston and hopefully allow you to see what we'd like to do, hopefully answer some questions that we may not cover, give us some more things that we can think about as we move this process forward to make these great changes for our kids here in North Charleston. So first, let me backtrack and talk a little bit about the sales tax referendum, which is kind of the premise of everything that's going on here. In November of 2014, you taxpayers voted to continue that penny sales tax program that was so highly successful for the previous 6 years. We began taking money in January of this year, and now we're ready to launch a bunch of our projects. Two of the projects here in North Charleston that relate to supporting our high school students are the Center for Advanced Studies and the new stadium. And so let me talk a little bit about each of those. So the Center for Advanced Studies, that's the exact language off the referendum. The budget approved by the Board of Trustees is $42.7 million. That's $42.7 million for a Center for Advanced Studies. That Center for Advanced Studies will not include a gymnasium, will not include athletic fields. It is not a standalone high school. It is a Center for Advanced Studies. We built one of these in Mount Pleasant. That was the first one out of the chute, and we've got one planned after this one in West Ashley. It's going to have a capacity of 600 students, and we have just recently selected our architect engineer firm, and we'll talk about them here in a little bit. They've given us some great ideas so far to think about. And then lastly, the construction of the new stadium. There's been a lot of discussion on the Mount Pleasant side about their stadium. And so, again, to try to clear up some confusion in North Charleston before we go much farther with that one, is that back in the day, we looked at what it would cost to build a stadium for each high school. For you taxpayers, it wasn't going to be economically feasible to build a new stadium for each high school. Many schools don't have a stadium as it stands right now. So this regional stadium concept, this shared stadium concept, allows our student athletes to play on a quality facility. Quality playing surface, great stands, great accommodations for the people coming to watch their children, their friends, and their neighbors, and give them some place to play that really is long deserved, long overdue. In the last building program, we're still working on a lot of those projects, there was an athletics improvement project for 10 of the high schools in the district, and we're rapidly moving those along, and that invested about $10 million into those high schools, and this project is $14.2 million. All right, alignment opportunities. So we don't like to have the building program driving what we're going to do. We want the gears to be working together. And the facility gears, the one I just talked about in the last slide, we've got the brick and mortar, the money to build the brick and mortar to help us along. The far left gear is the alignment opportunity, and that's making sure that we've got the right programs in place, the right programs identified to fill those facilities and to be able to prepare our kids for the last cog, and that's to be able to walk out into the workplace with a living wage or to go on to higher education ahead of their peers, at or ahead of their peers. So for the Center for Advanced Study, we've got several key goals that we're trying to achieve with the project. On the left-hand side, the circle is the Center for Advanced Studies, but this, very different than our other schools, especially here in North Charleston, is we really want to work with business, higher ed, and the community. We've started this at the Center for Advanced Studies at Wando to some extent. We have such great opportunities here in North Charleston with the businesses that are rolling in, the industries that are rolling in, to have a partnership with organizations in which the sky's the limit. There could be opportunities where industry brings equipment into our school for our kids to learn. There might be opportunities for us to send kids out into the community to have internships as part of this program as well. I know we've got a strong intern program already. We hope to expand upon that through this CAS. Higher education, making sure, again, those that are ready and want to move on to higher ed, that we jumpstart their college careers by partnering with the Institutes of Higher Education here in the area. And then lastly, the community perspective. We want to make sure that we do what we can to help the community. And I know that the city of North Charleston, there's been a number of articles and some discussion of having space for incubator companies in North Charleston. This may be a start for that. We may be able to provide some space for a couple of startup companies where our kids learn how businesses are run, and it gives some local businesses an opportunity to begin that would lead into what North Charleston's planning for the future as well. On the far right, we're aligned by zone now. We've got, I talked about 3 centers for advanced study, the one complete in Wando, the one here, and the one in West Ashley. Our other high schools will hopefully have an opportunity to feed into those, but they'll also have some programs of their own. Our hope is that the programs at the high schools will be lockstep with the programs at this Center for Advanced Study. We want to design this facility that it can change. You know, the jobs that were here 5 years ago are different than what they are now, and we expect that to continue in the future. And so we want to design space that can accommodate change. If you talk about putting a Center for Advanced Study in this building, not easy at all. There aren't the big box spaces we're talking about that can be changed with equipment flowing in and flowing out. And so the Center for Advanced Study being a standalone facility is critical from that perspective. And then lastly, we want to make sure that the programs that we have don't get stopped. We don't want to say, hey, Center for Advanced Study is open, let's shut down all of our other programs. We want to strengthen the programs that we feel are successful and needed, and potentially roll them into the Center for Advanced Study so that we're not starting from zero in many of our programs. So, what's within the art of the possible? I wanted people, I'm a picture guy, I like to see what could happen. And so we've got a number of slides. I'm going to talk to a couple, and when I turn it over to Reggie McNeil to talk about this project a little more, he's got some of that vision as well that we started to work with our architect engineer firm on. This is Lexington and Richland County. This is a fire and rescue training location for their high school kids, and you can see they do fire, paramedic, and also some law enforcement. But this is the big box space that I'm talking about, that 5 years from now, if we built this, 5 years from now, we might change it into something else to allow our students to pick up the trades and the skills that they need to move into the workforce. Automotive is a common one. We've already had some discussions with Rick Hendrick, with Baker. There's a number of folks that might be interested. I know that we've had Center for Advanced Study spaces around the state that have taken advantage of this as well, where, again, maybe there's an equipment sharing process. We'd hate to buy equipment that's outdated in a couple years where industry may be able to support us. Again, not saying that this would be in the school, but these are the kind of things that are within the art of the possible. So let's talk about where we're heading and what we'd like to do. First, I want to talk about the core of North Charleston, which is related to these two schools, North Charleston High School and Garrett Academy. This is the enrollment data for 5 years going back to 2012 to the current year. The blue line is North Charleston High School, and the red line is Garrett. You can see North Charleston High School is on the rise in general. There was one dip, but it's slightly moving up. Garrett Academy took a pretty big hit this current year. I suspect a lot of it had to do with rumors of the school closing, and that's understandable. It could be related to some of the programs as well, but we're not sure at this point. But you can see that number has dropped to 545 for this current year. The takeaways on the left, on the right-hand side, is that there are 243 students at Garrett Academy that are zoned for this school here. That's the biggest number out of that 545. And then within this high school, there are a lot of kids that don't go to this high school. Now, you've got a lot of magnet schools in this area, and that results in a lot of kids going to those magnet schools. But still, at 41%, it's the lowest among our high schools, and we hope that We hope that we can bring that back up with having some programs in place to drive North Charleston High School back to where it used to be. So, what this information has led the staff to do is to make a recommendation. We've showed it to the board. We want to show it. We want to show it to you as well and work through it. The recommendation is to locate that new building, the Center for Advanced Studies, here on this campus. The reason why we want to put it with another high school is, and I listed it as synergy, it's a lot more than that. It's the ability to share resources at a high school. So it could be making sure that we have enough parking, we make sure we have enough bus locations. We don't want to overbuild, and if we can share wherever possible, that saves on footprint and saves on money. In addition to that, there's an opportunity for teachers teaching on both sides as well. If they're teaching a core class here in this high school, they could teach a specialty class over at the Center for Advanced Studies. And that is similar to what we did in Mount Pleasant. Mount Pleasant, although it's only being utilized by Wando, we have a new high school coming online over there, and we expect to transport students to that Center for Advanced Study in the future when that school's up. Related to Garrett, the programs that we want to keep at Garrett, and right now we haven't identified any more programs that would close, but we want to have the programs that we believe are the future of Garrett to be lifted and shifted. As I mentioned earlier, we don't want to take programs down to zero and start over again, but we want to take those programs that are successful and make them part of this complex. We would still need to develop an execution plan for how that all happens. The kids that are at Garrett now would graduate as Garrett students. The kids in the future, we'd have to determine, do they continue on as Garrett for some period of time, or do they remain with their home school and attend this new Center for Advanced Studies? The key message and the key takeaway from this concept is that all students get a chance to use the Center for Advanced Studies. You don't have to apply to go to a separate high school. You can be at Stall High School during the day, and you could sign up for a program here at the Center for Advanced Studies, and we're going to work out the high school schedules. There are a number of other districts that are doing this, but it allows you to stay in your home school and have every kid have an opportunity to take advantage of the programs that are here. I want to talk about, I know that one of the questions that will be out there is, well, why can't you just keep Garrett in place as a high school and as a technology school? Well, the technology part, if we're building the Center for Advanced Studies, we don't want to have two of them. But the argument for not having a third high school is shown in the numbers here. I've listed 5 schools on the table. I've included Military Magnet because most of the kids at Military Magnet are from North Charleston. I've only counted for the 9 through 12 grades, so my facility number and my enrollment number is lower. It's not their full school because they've got middle school in that building as well. But I've dropped it down for just the high school kids. So our current enrollment is shown in that second column. 2,670 students is what we have in North Charleston in those schools. Our projected enrollment for 5 years goes up by 228. Now, I know I have a lot of people that tell me, you know, everything's growing, there's going to be a lot more kids. We're doing a pretty good job with enrollment projections. Not only do we take a look at the history of our schools and project numbers accordingly, but we sit down with the city planners and identify where the new development is occurring, go talk to those builders, find out when the homes are going to go up, when the apartments are going to go up, and project numbers of kids in the future that would go into their respective schools. So that's a projection for 5 years from now, 2022, 2888 for students. Current capacity, you can see the number of seats we have available in those 4 locations. I'm sorry, I said 5 before, 4 locations. 3,678. So what that means is, compared to today, we have 1,000 empty seats in our schools in North Charleston. If we replace Garrett with the Center for Advanced Studies, we add 600 for the Center for Advanced Studies, that gives us 3,353. What that means, and that's the yellow banner at the bottom, is that 5 years from now, we still have 465 empty seats in this district. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Reggie McNeil. Reggie?
Yeah, this thing's on. How you all doing? So the first thing that I would like to do is I'd like to introduce the people that are charged with capturing the vision and all the hard work that's been put into developing the CAS concept at this point. And that's going to be Stevens and Wilkinson and Red Iron. And if you would please stand up so that people can see you. Tim and Emma and Linda. They went through a rigorous process in order to be selected for the lead design team to bring us the CAS. So thank you all. I thank them for coming all the way down here. This is very important. They said they didn't care if it was on a Sunday morning at 3 in the morning, they'd be here. They need to come into the door and hear any feedback from the community in order to build what we have envisioned. So there's a lot of great stuff going on. So in this slide right here, the building that we're going to build is not going to be pink. As you can see on the board, it's going to be a color that reflects what's going on within the community. So this is one of the conceptual ideas that they had to bring the building over on East Montague and Jenkins. And there, as you can see from East Montague, there's a setback for the building space. And on the next slide, when I get there, I'll show you what this is actually, what's in the realm of the possible for the CAS. So it's going to be about a 130,000 square foot facility on about 4.9 acres of land. And we think it's going to be about 3 stories high to accommodate some of the space in the programming that Mr. Baroy spoke of earlier in slides 7 and 8, where he showed the automotive and also the other open big box space that had the EMS truck that was in it. Next slide. So this is what it could possibly look like. Again, we are at the very early stages. The design team will take all feedback coming from the community and other stakeholders and try to design exactly something that's satisfactory to the community. As you can see, this is about a 3-story building. The tallest section of this building is where you would have that big box concept that Mr. Baroy was talking of earlier. And this is not actually on the North Charleston site, but this is just, I just want you to focus on the building and what it could possibly look like. Next slide. So this last slide is very important in that there's a lot of history that goes into what Mr. Baroy was talking about. One being Garrett and the other one being the Attaway Heinsohn Field. I know there are people in the community that are concerned about what's going to happen with the monument at Attaway Heinsohn. So we wanted to put a couple of bullet points on here to let you know how this process flows when we talk about the naming of our facilities. This is a board action item that gets approved by them from a committee of stakeholders to develop alternatives for the naming of this new facility. It is our hope that we do not get rid of the legacy that went through the hallways of Garrett or played on the fields at Attaway. So we want to make sure that we capture that legacy going forward. And if it were up to me, that monument for Attaway Heinsohn would be a part of what we construct for the new D4 stadium, and the name of Garrett wouldn't be lost in what we're doing with the Center for Advanced Studies. Next slide. Back over to you, sir.
Yeah. So Reggie could keep talking. I'll cut in here to talk a bit about the timeline. We've got a number of things happening here right at the beginning of the process, and that's determining what's going to actually happen. It has to be approved by the board. In parallel with that, our career technology staff is working hard to develop those partnerships to determine what is going to actually go into the school. They'll be meeting with the high school staffs as well as industry leaders. We've already begun to do that on a number of fronts, but we want to have in general the idea of what's going to go into the facility before we actually begin the design, which is going to kick off here very shortly. We've got a year-long process for that design, 2 years to build it out. So it's going to happen, even though it seems like 2020 is a long way off, the commissioning and fit out takes us all the way to 2020 with this timeline as it stands right now. I will point out that a stadium location for District 4 has not been identified at this point. We continue to work with the private sector. We continue to work with the public sector to try to identify a location that can accommodate the stadium, and that's going to be a key factor. Mayor Summey has already said if the field gets displaced, they can share Danny Jones. North Charleston High School can share Danny Jones until the stadium is built. But that's something that we hope doesn't happen if we can get this project out of the ground and done after we identify a stadium location. So where do we stand with the next steps? I mentioned already pulling together resources to determine what programming would go into the Center for Advanced Studies, but also we want to seek board approval on this concept to keep this ball rolling. All right. You got cards for us, Erica? Okay, one of the questions here is, you want to see if there's any order to, like, common questions? The Center for Advanced Studies is shifting the student population. What is CCS doing to get more students in North Charleston High School? So, I'll take a first shot at that. I'll turn it over to Kim if you want to take a shot at that. I would point out that putting the Center for Advanced Studies at North Charleston High School is probably the biggest draw to get more kids to stay local. That's, to me, the biggest thing related to the Center for Advanced Studies. Comments on the high school?
Yeah, I would just disagree just a little bit. I think the number one thing is getting a strong leader in North Charleston High School, and in Mr. Darby, I think we found that leader, and I'm excited the fact that he's here and that he will be leading the North Charleston growth at this particular high school. In my preliminary meetings with him, he's very innovative. He's very concerned about students, and he has a real focus on what's good for kids. And so I'm excited about what he brings to the table, and I think that's going to really be the main success of our program and growth in North Charleston. As we know, the school is only as strong as the leader. And so I think, not to put any pressure on you, Mr. Darby, but you are going to be held accountable.
Thank you, sir.
Good. All right. What's that? How many people of color are being contracted to build the CAS? If CCSD is preparing people for a career, why do they not hire CCSD graduates or those that depend upon public schools? So we have very strong small women, minority business enterprise goals for the district, and I'm very proud to say that the construction program that's under Reggie McNeil right now exceeds those goals, and I would argue that there are many other districts in the state that don't come close to what we're doing. It's 20% is the goal, and we exceed that goal within the district. I'll also say that especially for small projects, we executed $8 million $8 million last summer on construction projects for small minority businesses. I want to say it was more than 30 companies. I know Larry's here. Where's Larry at? 30 companies last year, 30 small minority-owned businesses. In fact, those 30 were all minority businesses that got work last summer. We hold minority business fairs. We have minority business discussions to help them try to get certified within the state and show them how to do business with Charleston County School District. All right. What percentage of North Charleston High School students attend magnets, percentage attending other charters, etc.? That's a very complicated number. I have it up on the stage that whoever asked that question could come see me afterwards, because you got to look at all the schools and add up the numbers, but I have those numbers with me. As I showed, 41% of the students from North Charleston High School go to North Charleston High School. The remaining 60% is split between charters and magnet schools, and we can actually look at those numbers afterwards. Again, 40%, 60% goes somewhere else. What green space will be available for North Charleston High School students? Where will they practice? You know, that is one of the challenges. We have one more field on the opposite side of where the Center for Advanced Studies would be built. That will be the facility that would have to be used. But like many other schools, we transport kids around to get to a place to practice. We do that in a lot of places. And then for green space, on Reggie's diagram layout, he talked about the art of the possible of having some green space in that corner where the Attaway Heinsohn Memorial is right now. That's the possibility for green space. And also on the opposite side where it showed for future expansion, that could be potentially green space as well. If everyone practices at the new athletic facilities, how is that scheduled? That's going to be one of the challenges for a regional stadium. I assume that that's what that question is for. I can tell you, I grew up in a place where there was a regional stadium shared by 4 schools. They played the varsity football games on Friday and Saturday. They played the JV games on Wednesdays and Thursdays in the fall, and then in the spring, they used it for soccer for boys and girls Monday through Friday for those 4 schools. And so it's a matter of working through the scheduling with each of the athletic directors at those schools. Oh yeah, I'll have the paperwork right up here. We can work out the numbers. What's that? Okay, yeah. And again, I'd have to double check, but we post that live and attendant data on the district website. What's that? It's on the website now. I have to show them where it's at. Yeah. We're doing it. We're doing it on the cards. Do you have cards for them?
So, sir, the process for this community meeting is that if you have a question or a comment, to fill out the card. And the purpose is because we want to make sure that after the meeting, if there's someone who's not here who may want to know the answers to the same questions that you have, we'll provide the answers to everyone, not just those who are here, but for members of the public who are not. So that was the reason. Most of these are about athletic fields.
All right. What will they do with the current North Charleston soccer, football, baseball teams for 2.5 years while the building's being constructed? I've answered that one again. We'll have to look at sharing fields and other locations, and they'll have one practice field next door. How do you plan to pay for transportation for athletics and band and games? And that's something that we added to the budget when the stadium would open in 2020, if that's how fast we can get it done. We'll incorporate transportation. And right now, we do have a lot of transportation between our facilities that's included in our budget as we speak. We, as a community, have worked to improve involvement. How do you intend to keep that momentum if you move the field? I'd have to understand this question a little bit better. Understand. Okay. Right. I completely understand it. So I can't answer the question because I don't know where the stadium is, and that might be a con, a negative to this plan. And that would be put forward to our board of directors. We'd make sure our school board knows that that's a potential problem. That's a good one. I didn't know that.
Mr. Barowie, I would say that it will expand the opportunities for businesses and stakeholders to become more involved in the academic and possibly the programs that the CTE career and technology field offers, such as robotics and culinary arts and all the child development and all those things. So I see a lot more opportunity for the community to be involved.
All right, let's see if there's any more for that. Where will the new field be located? We don't have that yet. Talked about that one. Is it the whole stack here? Those are done. Those are done. We got more. Let's pull them together here. Okay. Explain the advantages and disadvantages of the Garrett location. Can you?
Explain advantages and disadvantages of the Garrett location. Heinzen Field.
Yeah, right. Right. So the advantages are, as I pointed out during the brief, being located at a current high school. So having a Center for Advanced Study at a location of a current high school provides us that advantage of shared opportunities with as much as possible of what's in the district. I went on to demonstrate that we don't have a need for 3 high schools. So the question would be, which high school don't we need? Would it be Stahl? Would it be North Charleston High School? Or would it be Garrett? So that narrowed it down as well. And the best location, based on the staff recommendation, was to put it here, out of those 3. So 2 points I'll make with that is I took a look back to the support for Garrett, and Garrett receives, from a facility perspective, right on the average of what every other school gets. So they're not shortchanging Garrett. Garrett has work put into that school at the same level that we're funded for the rest of the high schools in the school district. So as far as shortchanging Garrett, I'm not sure if there are some specifics. I'll certainly take a look at that. We've actually got more money planned to put into it this summer because we still have 3 years that we would propose keeping that school open, and we would continue with that. The programs that are there, if we're shortchanging the programs, I would defer to our program experts on how we gauge what goes into a school, how we determine what goes into a school, because I've heard from others that, again, programs close, programs open, and how Garrett sits from that perspective, and I'm looking down to Mary and Rich on that one.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the Garrett programming.
Is this on? Yes. Good afternoon. Excuse my dress. Normally I'm in a shirt and tie. I'm in the National Guard also, so I just came from my training, and I'll be heading back there right afterwards. As Mr. Jeff was saying, I'm the Director of Career and Technology Education with Charleston County. Programming is a critical component of career and technology education, and we look at a lot of facets and a lot of avenues when determining, the different programs, the careers. They call them schools of study and clusters. Those are some words maybe you've seen, and majors and courses. So we look at Garrett and we see the current courses that they offer and the current career pathways and the current majors. So we work with what's working, existing. Mr. Jeff talked about those viable programs where we can lift and shift. So those will be taken under consideration. We also work with the Charleston Metro Chamber of Commerce. They have the latest and greatest statistics and data as to where the need is, where the jobs are coming, where the investment is coming in from the business community, and then how, what we can do as a school district in order to prepare our students to be college and career ready. We also look at, there's a national model for career and technology education. They offer 16 they're called clusters. And from there, we can choose on which clusters that we feel will best meet the needs of our students, K through 12, because career and technology really starts in elementary school with job shadowing and experience out learning about the different occupations that are available, and then also going into internships and apprenticeships and other types of work-based learning opportunities. That's also a critical component of this design, because we want to look in the North Charleston area, specifically around this area, to see how can these kids get involved in the local community where we can have businesses come to the school so they can provide their expertise and their guidance, and then again, how can our children contribute to the local community and to society as well, under a work-based learning umbrella where they receive high school credit, sometimes college credit, that can matriculate as a transition to post-secondary. That's just 3 of the ways that we look at programming needs. There's more to that, but that's sort of where we start from. Just a little primer. Mr. Kim?
Just like to add one thing. The placement of the CAS across the street would open up all kinds of opportunities. If you could imagine and envision a school sitting there, and across the street you've got EMS, you've got Intertech, you've got retail, you've got culinary arts, restaurants, you've got cosmetology, you've got a bank. The biggest deterrent for work-based learning opportunities for students is transportation, because kids can't get to the work-based learning experience because we can't provide the transportation, or they don't have the vehicles to get there. In a setting like this, they could walk right across the street. So to me, that's exciting to have a school within a community that would not only provide the training, but possibly provide future workers for this area. So there's all kinds of possibilities, I think, when it comes from that.
As long as we got the educators working here, I'm going to throw a few more at you here. So, what would happen with the teachers at Garrett if this initiative were to move forward?
The teachers would be the ones that we shift and lift over here. Obviously, those are going to be considered for those curriculum areas that we bring over. Also, the English, Math, Science, and Social Studies, those core subject area teachers. As with any new shifting or moving people, those people are always considered for those positions, and there'll be new positions that are opened up, but those will be advertised. The teachers will be shifted to take care of the initial programs, and then from there, I assume that we're going to need more. So we'll be opening up, posting those positions. Yeah.
Is there going to be a cap per school for programs offered by the CAS? If so, how will that be allocated, and will there be some kind of application process?
As Mr. Baroi said, this is opened up to all North Charleston area students. There won't be a cap. The only cap will be if we grow to 2,000 kids, and to me, that's a wonderful program, because then we're gonna try to figure out a way to expand. The good in that is we've got a nice facility here that we could possibly expand in this location too. So I see all kinds of opportunity for flexibility within the 2 buildings.
Okay. There were 2 questions on traffic. There has not been a traffic study done. We'll do an analysis before we would move ahead with this initiative. I expect with a school of only 600 that there wouldn't be a significant impact. I've done the analysis before in other locations, but we will, in all fairness to the community, wherever we would go, we would want to make sure that traffic is analyzed and identify any necessary changes to minimize impact on the community. So why not renovate and fix Garrett? So that's a good question. Although we continue to put, I believe, an adequate amount of money into Garrett. For those of you that have been here way longer than I have, the main part of Garrett was built in 1957. The annex was built in 1967, and the ARC was built early 90s maybe, 94. So I don't want to call it a hodgepodge, but it is a very tough school to renovate and expand upon based on the layout and the way it was built in the past. We believe that new construction would offer a better opportunity with what we're looking at doing, both from a size perspective and a power perspective of what's needed in these big box locations. Question related to why didn't you come to us earlier? Why are you doing this now? How come you haven't gotten community input before now? That is a very good question. We have to have enough information to put options on the table. This one probably went a little bit farther than I would have liked to, but when I look back at what was done before I got to this district, the Center for Advanced Studies was put on that referendum in 2014. There were a number of things related to Garrett that weren't. The design for Garrett was put in the last program, and that was not executed, and the construction for Garrett was not put in this new building program. So in a sense, there was some idea a while back that this would be the preferred option. Again, we could have come out here earlier, we could have presented more information, but we wanted to have a little bit more information on whether or not this was within the art of the possible, because we are working at a tight location here in North Charleston. News reports indicate that the practice field will be sold to a developer for new residential construction. Please confirm or deny this. I can only say that we haven't analyzed it to see if that's something that we want to do. As pointed out earlier, if we build the Center for Advanced Studies on Heinzen Field, that practice field next to it might be the only field we have left for North Charleston. There'd be also a question, although it wasn't written here, for what would happen to Garrett in that neighborhood. There's no plans at this point for the district to sell that property, and we have some potential other school needs, none that have been vetted to a point where we're ready to present them to the board for approval. But that is in the heart of a community, and we'd like to see it continue to be used as an educational opportunity location. We haven't come up with a final plan for that to share at this point. Yep, I've talked about that. I mentioned that already. All right. Is there any interest in dual credit classes?
The question is, are there dual credit classes being considered?
Yeah.
Absolutely. The partnership that we have right now with secondary institutions includes many dual credit courses at all of our high schools. And certainly this would be one of those areas that we would definitely consider that. We are in communication constantly, particularly with Trident Tech. It's a wonderful partnership. Right now there are workforces, there are deficits in the workforce that we need to fill. Trident is working diligently to build curriculum so that we can fill those workforce positions, and it would behoove us to continue with the dual credit not only in our academics but in our career and technology programs as well. We know that aerospace is an industry that has moved into our region within the last few years. Automotive has as well. And these are areas that we definitely need to consider preparing our students for. Dual credit enrollment is an excellent option, particularly with the lottery tuition that's available. Our students are able to take 2 courses per semester and apply for the lottery tuition. They can take more than that if they see fit to do so. And on the horizon is even an early high school college in which dual enrollment, our hope is that students would advance toward an associate's degree, which would be entirely possible with the Career and Technology Center as well. So dual enrollment definitely is a part of the plan and will continue to be embedded in the curriculum offerings that we plan.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you. All of the questions that we had some similar questions on cards. We can take 1 or 2 more questions. If anyone has a question that they want to write on a card, we can get that to you right now before we end. Okay, I'll bring you a card.
They have email addresses on there? Okay. I do not believe there's a cost factor. The cost to build the Center for Advanced Studies would be at the same here as it would be at Garrett. So the cost of construction is the same. No, we will not tear Garrett down. We'll look at repurposing Garrett in the future. Yes, ma'am. We have to provide transportation, that's assured. We'll have to do that in either location. The point I was trying to make earlier was that we have a need to close one high school. Okay, so if we built at Garrett, the Garrett High School wouldn't be there. The Center for Advanced Studies would be there, in which case everybody would be transported to the Center for Advanced Studies rather than having a significant portion of the kids from this location that could walk across the street. So in a sense, transportation is less by having it at this site rather than replacing Garrett with the Center for Advanced Studies. Right. Yes. Stall's got a long way to get anywhere. You're absolutely right. That's a long haul from Stall. And one of the things that we're going to look at with Stall High School because of that distance is if the basic classes for the Center for Advanced Studies can be offered at Stall, they're not coming down all the time. If there are classes we can put at Stall if they're full, I mean, if we've got a full class of kids, they're going to take some basic class that will eventually be offered at the Center for Advanced Studies and allow them to stay at that school for those first few classes. That'll save them from having to be transported down for the equipment-loaded classes that would be at that center. What are the plans to bring the Garrett and North Charleston High School students together as one school? That's a great question. That's something we'll have to walk through in great detail. I would certainly rely upon the principals to be the leaders on that aspect. Mr. Darby, if you'd like to comment on how you approach that.
It's a very good question, sir. We started that process without knowing about this process since April of last year, when we discovered that students from various schools simply don't get together. There was an organization of men up to 70 strong where when we went to the various communities, walking the streets, putting up various signs, which we did last week, to prepare for occasions such as this. However, we did not have the clairvoyance to know that this was coming. But there will be men and women in place to explain to parents and students. Yeah. Because the fact of the matter is there are two major groups which don't get along. And for order for us to provide a safe and secure environment here, we will have to get the community together to talk to those parents and students. So something is already in the workings and in the making to discuss with the parents and those students and the gangs which don't get along. That's a very good question.
Thank you, sir. How will the gentrification of the area affect the current population of these schools? That's an age-old question. I've looked at that hard in District 10 when I received that very same comment, and I don't have a real good answer. It's hard for us to project how many homes will be turned over. All we can do is continue to look at that on a year-by-year basis and see how the numbers change with our schools and then roll that in the projection. So that's one thing I can't predict very well compared to new growth. That's one of the challenges we face every day. That's a good question. Okay, if Garrett is a county-wide school, why the need to close it? It is a county-wide school, but as I pointed out, a significant number of the attendees are from North Charleston. In fact, probably 80% of the students that attend Garrett are from North Charleston. And so, although it is indeed a countywide school, the need for it as a countywide school is not as extensive as our other schools, our other countywide schools in the district. Anything to add to that one from our academic side? Mary?
The current application period for magnet schools shows that Garrett has 144 applications. by far the vast majority of those are students from District 4. That is in comparison to some of our other schools, for instance, that have upwards of 700, 800, 900, and over 1,000 applications. So you can see that the District 4 population that is at Garrett is primarily a District 4 population.
Since the school building, or since the building will be built in 2020, let's make sure there's a definite answer where children will play their sports. Absolutely. Right, Terry? I see you shaking your head. Yeah. Why haven't they started to shut down the tech programs at Garrett? We really like to see the successful programs at Garrett to be moved. We don't want to start from scratch, start from zero, and we want to allow those kids to finish their program. So the hope is that the programs that would be successful, are successful at Garrett, they'll be moved to the new Center for Advanced Studies, and those programs would continue to be successful.
The successful programs in school are dependent upon the teachers in that program. We rely on those teachers to recruit students and to build their program, and so the teachers who are doing that great job in the classroom and recruiting those students and building those programs, those are the teachers who are going to help us lift and shift those over. So that'll be really focused on the teachers and making sure they do a great job in the classroom.
And this is kind of similar to that one, and part of it you already answered, but then you went on, it goes on, the question goes on to say, what are you doing to help Garrett keep the teachers that they have and get the ones that they need now?
Well, I'm not sure I understand the question. Who asked that? Okay, I understand now. So working with Charleston County Recruitment and HR, we just had a recruitment fair. I know Garrett was there. They hired several teachers. Those are going to continue. We are going to reach out to get the best teachers possible from across the nation. So that process will not stop just because we're gonna still need those teachers to move to wherever we need them, whether it be over here at the CAS or North Charleston or wherever they need, where the need be. As far as support in the school, we're going to provide the same level of support that we do for all schools, which is the professional development, the district level, and also at the school level, the principal is responsible for making sure the teachers have what they need and that they support their programs. So we'll continue those. Those things are not going to go away.
Is there any plan to reduce the number of magnet or charter options for parents so more kids will be put back in North Charleston schools? Mary, have you seen any changes with magnets?
Right, and the question is whether there are plans to reduce the number of magnets and charter schools. Charter schools operate autonomously, so that is something that really and truly, when those are presented to the board, that is a board decision. With regard to the number of magnet schools, and those are countywide, constituent, Montessori, and partial magnets, there are discussions going on right now, and there have been discussions with the board to look at making sure that we have opportunity and access in all quadrants of our district, whether those be themed schools with particular focus or whether they be a magnet school. So our hope is that as we move in that direction and continue these discussions, that we will have a plan that certainly provides opportunity and access for all of our students throughout the entire district.
the amount of space available at Garrett, if you take away the ball fields, is the same as this block here. We have 4.6 acres here, we have 4.9 acres there that don't encumber a building or parking. Garrett as a whole is 17 acres, but again, where there is no building, it's 4.9 acres, there's 4.6 acres here. There's 17 acres at Garrett now. That's the whole plot of land. So that last part of the question was, what are you seeing as far as trends of applications at Garrett?
It's very hard to predict the number of applications for any of our schools, and it changes from year to year. The 3 years that I've been involved with working with magnet schools, we've had approximately the same number of applications for Garrett. Very often, our comprehensive high schools offer programs that students want to be a part of, and that answers some of the question in terms of them attending their residence high schools and applying for the program or accessing the programs there, such as our computer technology programs, health science, culinary arts. The Center for Advanced Studies would give us the opportunity to build on what the region workforce is demanding at this point in time. So it's a magnificent opportunity to move forward, to look at curriculum and have the distinct opportunity to build a building that is built around the curriculum. So the bottom line is that we do have comprehensive high schools in all areas of the district, and Garrett, the concept of Garrett goes back to the 1990s, and so it's some of those programs are offered in our high schools. This would give us the opportunity to enhance that and embody the workforce demands and the opportunities with industry that we see now.
Thank you, Ms. Runyon, and thank you for being here. We want to acknowledge some of our other district staff who are here today. Our Associate Superintendent for School. Yes, sir.
I don't have the current one with me. But as board members, it's your call, obviously. All right, she's got it.
You want me to repeat what Mr. King said? Okay, and keep me honest, Mr. King. What Mr. King said is that the meeting, he didn't think the meeting was over. He thought that we should have open dialogue so that we can hear from constituents versus the process that we have used to employ for today's community meeting. Is that correct, Mr. King? Did I get that right? So can I share the motion? The motion that the board is being asked to vote on Monday is the board will consider a recommendation coming from the Operations Committee to consolidate Garrett Academy with the new North Charleston Center for Advanced Studies and construct on the North Charleston High School campus, subject to a public hearing. That's the motion. No. Correct.
Let me say, folks, that I'm in favor of the school. We need this in North Charleston. You know, we do a lot of recruiting for businesses and all in the North Charleston. The city of North Charleston has promoted this for a long time. We need this school in North Charleston. It's just a matter, to me, it's where it ought to be. And you can't come for an hour meeting and decide, because this is a major change in our community. It has been here for a long time. This is a part of the Bonds-Wilson, came over from the Bonds-Wilson deal and all that. So those are the type of things, but we're not ready tonight to vote on that, this afternoon to vote on this thing. And the school board's got to consider all this, where to vote on it Monday night. She just read it to you what they're going to be voting on Monday night. So that's a change. But they talked about that, and let me mention something else about, and I support these people, and these are some good friends of mine and all, and I appreciate them. But the problem is this needs a lot of work done on this. And there is a field back of that. They talked about the practice field. What's wrong with that field if they're going to build it here in North Charleston if you got it? And I think about the school, and I was talking to the city councilman up in Stall High School area. He's concerned about how far they have to come from Stall High School. That's a long way to Stall High School. I had a great principal up there before. But but this is the type of thing that they need more dialogue with it. You know, Saturday on, this is not a good attendance, although we appreciate everybody coming out, but it's not a good attendance for something that's important, that's going to change the face of North Charleston and the village down here. They talk about traffic. If they bring that in, they hadn't seen no traffic here. You can't hardly get a parking place down in the village now. So we need this, and it's a good program. It's going to be a good program. It's something that's needed, and I think we need to move forward that portion of it. It's just a matter of where that school ought to be located, and where it's centrally located, where it ought to be down near the military magnet area. There's property down there, property all over the place. Let me tell you, they talked about the practice field. I can tell you the developer's already after that property. I can tell you that for sure. They're after it now. They've already looking at it to see if they can get it. So they think it's going to go through. So they're looking to get that property in their hands. So I just think they ought to open it up for dialogue. They're running the meeting and I'm not, but the problem is I just think we need to have some more input from you as the citizens of North Charleston.
The motion is specific to the location and, right. But as pointed out, it's subject, your vote is subject to a public hearing. So it would not be voted on Monday. It's subject to a public hearing. CCSD puts forward its best option to the board for a vote. It includes comments from the public. If half the community says I want it here and half the community says I want it here, we make a recommendation, but we let them know what the community says. So our recommendation could be swayed by public opinion, but in the end, we have to base it upon needs of the students, the economics, and also what people think. So I can't guarantee it either way, but that sentiment would be put into our recommendation that goes to the board.
As a community member, it is very hard for us to make an informed decision on if this vote should be accomplished or elsewhere in North Charleston. When you don't know what's moving about, when you don't know what the students are going to play their game, it is very hard. We're not having all the facts, because you guys don't have them yet.
Right.
How are we supposed to give you more input?
it's the cart versus the horse on a lot of cases. We could come forward with more information down the road. That's the challenge, is that how much effort do you put in to develop all the answers on a solution and then find out it's not going to work. So it's always a question of when do you do the detailed analysis, when do you do the public meetings, and there's no right or wrong answer. All we can say is, yeah, we don't have an answer for the stadium yet. We don't have a firm commitment on traffic. We'll get those and we'll bring those back and let folks know. Okay, and so we'll be sticking around here afterwards if you want to come up one-on-one. If your question wasn't read the way, we try to consolidate questions that were the same, but if you had something that was a nuance of that, the staff will stick around. And again, we'll be scheduling meetings in the future to give you more information. We're also going to share the information like you've asked. We'll make sure that you can see the information that was presented. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.